of freebies, people are not willing to work. That's how the Supreme Court today slammed the freebie culture, coming down heavily on governments and political parties announcing freebies just ahead of elections. The Supreme Court said that it is this culture which is disincentivizing people from working, and in states like Maharashtra even drying up the labour force. During the hearing of a PIL seeking shelter for the urban homeless in Delhi, the Supreme Court Judge Justice Gavai not only deprecated the distribution of freebies but also remarked that it would be better if the homeless are sought to be integrated into mainstream society so that they can contribute to the nation and its workforce. Now remember, cash transfer schemes have recently found electoral success in Maharashtra, Jharkhand and Haryana, cementing their role as a staple form of electioneering. The most recent, of course, being Delhi, where all three major political parties like the Bharatiya Janata Party, Aam Aadmi Party and even Congress unveiled a barrage of freebies or subsidies to the electorate. The core challenge in this debate is the absence of a clear consensus on what constitutes a freebie. Some argue that freebies amount to bribery and discourage voters from making informed choices. But many others claim that such a narrative strips voters of their agency and delegitimizes welfare politics. And so to better understand what amounts a freebie and what makes up for a welfare scheme meant for betterment of society, let's also take a quick look at some of the key promises made by political parties, often in the run-up to elections. Now, whether or not these promises are fulfilled or mere words thrown around as confetti to attract voters, that's a debate for another day. But during Maharashtra elections, the BJP promised financial assistance of 2,100 rupees for women on a monthly basis, popularly known as the Ladki Bahin Yojana. The party also promised an increase of 3,000 rupees in its loan waiver policy and a monthly stipend of 10,000 rupees for nearly 10 lakh students. Recently, the defeated Aam Aadmi Party too made a barrage of promises, from monthly assistance of rupees 21,000 for women to, in fact, free electricity up to 200 units and 50% subsidy beyond that. How can one forget the Mohalla clinics and AAP's promise to provide free healthcare in both private and public hospitals? Now remember that 21,000 in fact was promised by the Aam Aadmi Party for pregnant women. AAP too tried to lure the voters with its several promises. Of course, there was a stipend also promised to women on a monthly basis. During Maharashtra elections and Delhi elections both, here's what the Congress brought to the table: financial assistance of 2,500 rupees for women, free electricity up to 300 units per household, even LPG cylinders at the cost of 500 rupees only. The Mamata-led Trinamool Congress has also promised to increase income for labourers and guaranteed 100-day work for job card holders with a daily wage of 400 rupees. TMC has also promised free housing for all poor families and free 10 gas cylinders to below poverty line families per year. And down south, the DMK has promised 4,000 rupees for ration card holders and free tablets for government school students. Now, 10,000 rupees to farmers has been promised only to buy new motors, and 100 rupees as subsidy for cooking gas cylinders. DMK made promises galore in the run-up to Tamil Nadu elections. But are these welfare promises justified or even unwarranted? How viable are these freebies actually? The recent data throws light on the grave situation underneath these states that are battling, almost struggling to balance the weight of these promises. The Congress government in Karnataka promised 5 guarantees in the state, and the Siddaramaiah government has spent almost 63,382 crore rupees so far only on freebies, and currently is facing an outstanding liability of over 7 lakh crore rupees. Himachal Pradesh, another Congress-led state, promised to fulfill 10 guarantees and now faces an outstanding liability of over 1 lakh crore rupees. While no data is available on how much the state has spent on freebies yet, it was not until much recently that the Himachal Bhavan was put on sale, remember, much to the Sukhu government's embarrassment. Let's have a quick look at Telangana, another Congress-led government by Revanth Reddy, which promised 6 guarantees in the state and has so far spent over 53,000 crore rupees only to fulfill its freebie promises, but is currently dealing with an outstanding liability of over 4 lakh crore rupees. So as per the CAG report, Maharashtra's outstanding liabilities stand at over 6 lakh crore rupees, or even 18.73% of its gross state domestic product as of 2023, of which 80% is about 5.32 lakh crore is only public debt. Punjab is reeling under mounting public debt of over 3 crore rupees, constituting 49% of the state's income in 2023 to up to 24. In the current year, the outstanding debt as a percentage of GSDP is in fact projected to be over 44%. Having brought you all of that data, I think I can now safely pose my question from states having to battle financial burden to the Supreme Court's concern of a class of parasites being created. Have doles come to be a disincentive for India? That's the question I'll be opening up for our guests today. And so with that, let me introduce our esteemed panelists today. I'm joined in by Ashpreet Kadyal, who's a spokesperson for the Congress party, Sumit Chandar, who's a renowned advocate, Shailesh Gandhi, who's also a renowned author. I'm told that BJP's Shazia Ilmi will also be joining in. Many thanks to all of you gentlemen for joining in. Ashpreet, if I may begin with you, how do you assess what the Supreme Court's in fact gone on to say today? Do you think that we are creating a class of parasites? And is this disincentivizing India's workforce?
Number one, it would be really nice if the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson, when they join, would start with an apology. Because if freebies to be promised are wrong, how wrong is it to promise it and then not even deliver it? For example, the 15 lakhs that were promised by the Bharatiya Janata Party by Mr. Modi, they haven't even delivered it in the last 10 years. So they should take responsibility for it, should apologize for it, and therefore resign. Number two, 2,500, 21,000, etc. were promised in Delhi election by the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party should tell us that instead of providing, opportunities, jobs, shelter homes to people, making these promises, and number one, the Bharatiya Janata Party has had to reduce budget of many social welfare schemes, many of them. And number two, the Bharatiya Janata Party needs to answer this thing, that shelter home is a fundamental right as per the Supreme Court. And in the last 10 years, you have not been able to provide shelter homes to the people. And therefore, the Honorable Supreme Court has had to pull them up. And when it was asked to them as to what will you do about it, instead of saying that we'll provide them with opportunities and jobs, etc., the Bharatiya Janata Party said that we'll provide them with facilities.
I'm sure Shazia will be able to respond to all those allegations that have come in, but let's not begin this debate with the tone of attack. Ashpreet, I think what the Supreme Court today has also called for a moment of introspection. Let's not forget that all those states where your party is in fact ruling, whether it is Telangana or whether it is even say Karnataka, we've seen the kind of outstanding liabilities. Himachal, of course, is in the lower order. If you look at the amounts that are the outstanding liabilities, are you even able to promise those guarantees, considering you have such massive amounts?
Well, when the tone of Indians is this, how can I not reflect that? This is the tone of the Indians. Because the people are fed up with what the Bharatiya Janata Party has been promising when it comes to freebies, and they're not even delivering it. Now, first, let's understand, why did this go to the Supreme Court? because the Bharatiya Janata Party could not ensure shelter homes to the people of India despite massive promises. Number two, when the Bharatiya Janata Party is not able to do that, they should also tell, because in the Supreme Court there was a reference made that the somewhat little number of shelter homes that exist, people do not even want to go and live there because they are in a dilapidated state. And on the other hand, the Bharatiya Janata Party's leaders are living in big bungalows, traveling in luxury cars, a fleet of luxury cars.
Ashpreet, why don't you reserve that argument when Shazia actually joins in?
It's
because,
not my fault.
All right,
it's
Shazia has just joined in. I've given you ample time. You've still managed to dodge that question with regards to the outstanding liabilities as far as Telangana, Karnataka and Himachal are concerned. But I'm going to, in fact, yes, I will come to you. Shazia has joined in. Shazia, a host of allegations coming in. Why couldn't the government at the center provide, shelter homes to those homeless? Apart from that, of course, there is the biggest allegation that you are the one who's not able to deliver upon the promises that are guaranteed by the party.
A little bit more about how the economy is doing. Why is the fifth largest economy? Very different from it being one of the fragile five to now being the biggest five economies, but he should learn more. We're talking about shelter homes. I would like to tell the Congress spokesperson here that 25 crore poorest of poor Indians were lifted out of abject poverty, multidimensional poverty. Not just that, the scheme we have since COVID till now of the largest free ration in the whole world is still continuing. And not just that, I mean, people have to learn from this, but you have to have a pre-budgetary allocation and understanding of what you need to do. So in that sense, there is no comparison, and the states that really must pay heed to this should be Himachal and Punjab, as well as Delhi, which has come into the red, and of course Karnataka, than anything else. I just want to tell you, people will quote Maharashtra, and let me tell you, the fiscal deficit stood at 90,560 crores, which is 2.24 of the GSDP, and which is within the permissible limit of 3% as per the Maharashtra Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. So, but if you look at now, Punjab is 49.3 is the debt, and it's a 47,000 crore in the past year and a half.
All right.
So the outstanding debt hovers around 50% of its GDP. You look at Karnataka and look at the inflation, look at the prices of milk, and see how they've gone back on 5 of the big poll promises, and why they have now decided not to give free bus rides and taken away some of the freebies.
Absolutely, and for that, in fact, that is our second topic of discussion.
They could not have money.
That is what we are discussing in the second debate as well. Because, remember, it is the Congress in Karnataka which is now blaming the previous government for not having, hiked the rates as far as metro fare since 2017 is concerned. Ashpreet, please go ahead.
Thank you. See, number one, in court, when the freebies were referred to, the first reference that came from the court was of Ladli Behan. Number two, then freebies that were promised in Maharashtra, the Honorable Justice referred to it that because of the freebies that were promised just before the election, agriculturists do not have laborers. And how much the economy is suffering because of that, we can all see it. Number two, the Delhi Bharatiya Janata Party had made promises of 2,500, 21,000, etc. After that, an ex-judge filed a case in the Delhi High Court, and that freebies amount to corruption. And then it was referred to the Honorable Supreme Court. So the problems for the Bharatiya Janata Party are really going to rise. The most important question here is, what's the stand of centre? Will they stand in favour of freebies in court, or will they stand against it? Because if they say, yes, we'll stand against the freebies, why in the last 10 years have you not brought about a law in order to do away with them? Because you're the one who has the power.
Shazia, I think that's a valid question, because it was Prime Minister back in the year 2022 who himself had condemned the Revdi culture. The whole term Revdi was coined by him.
So you think taking 25 crore people out of multidimensional poverty, or adding 16 crore people to the workforce in the organized sector, you think that is a sort of a freebie? I think that's a basic, and whether it's providing water or housing, poor affordable housing for the poor, do you think that is a freebie? I think that is a basic right to life and livelihood that the government finally is making good on. And if it really was so bad, our economy would have been in a shambles.
In
And you're
favor or
talking
against?
about, when it comes to all the world economies, we've contained inflation rather well. There has been fiscal prudence with which we have worked since COVID. And despite a black swan event like COVID, we've managed to stay clear and stay afloat.
All
Not
right,
just
let's
that,
hear what Ashpreet has to say. Ashpreet.
The question here is, what will be the stand of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the Supreme Court? Will you stand in favor of freebies or against? Just tell us that.
no, because we're not totally idiotic, and it's not a yes or no. What is a freebie is what we are talking about. There has to be, you have to be there for the people and fulfill the promises. You have to, instead of other governments which have been completely mired in corruption and have had such a huge fiscal deficit and have really had the biggest scams or NPAs. It is our government that has put the economy in order.
Right.
It
I
is
think
our
that's a
government
very
which has
valid point that you
seriously
are
looked at
making.
providing
15 lakhs.
drinking water.
No,
That
I
is
want
not
to
a
bring in
freebie.
Sumit. I
So
want to.
15
Arshdeep,
lakhs is
I'm
not
going
a
to
freebie.
complete,
No,
don't
but
take myself
Ashpreet,
to
I'm
be.
sure you cannot deny that fiscal deficit has been a challenge to the Indian economy, which is why I want to also bring in Sumit Chandar on that note. Sumit, the Supreme Court bench has also requested the Attorney General to in fact find out and verify from the centre in terms of how soon will the urban poverty alleviation mission achieve its goal. But I want to ask you, can it even achieve its goals if, election after election, states after states keep making those free promises? How do we ensure that poverty will actually be alleviated? Because you ensure, as the Supreme Court highlighted, are we disincentivizing, in fact, people from entering the workforce?
The Akanksha, I think Supreme Court here, and let us understand this very clearly, both the learned spokesperson of parties, various political parties have made their points very clear and very intelligently so. But the question before Supreme Court today is about the corrupt practices, whether these freebies will amount to corrupt practices under Section 123 of the Representation of People's Act. That is the interpretation of law which will go on, and accordingly, the rest of the things will be decided. Now, what does Section 123 of the Representation of People's Act say? It says that any gift or promise of any gratification, either by the candidate or by the agent on his consent, to any elector to vote or refrain from voting in an election will amount to corrupt practices under Section 123 of the Representation of People's Act. Now, this matter was taken up in 1996 before in Ramchandra Kapse case, and then again in 2013 in the Subramaniam Balaji case, where now the Supreme Court is revisiting what was held in the Subramaniam Balaji case. At that time in 2013, the Supreme Court had held that the pre-election promise does not actually amount to corrupt practices under Section 123 of the Representation of People's Act.
Okay.
Constitution, what the Supreme Court said was that Constitution provides for various checks and balances. It's not that today a political party in a particular state says, I'm going to provide you, and after elections it would come into existence. There's a due process before a scheme can be implemented in law. It has to be passed as long as the scheme comes within the realm of public purpose by passing suitable appropriation bills. It will not be a corrupt practices. If any party, any opposition has any problem with that freebies being passed by virtue of a public practices, and when it comes in the parliament, it can be duly opposed at that stage. Supreme Court is only now going to clarify the judgment of the Subramaniam Balaji case, whether what exactly will amount to corrupt practices as defined under Section 123 of the Representation of People's Act. What freebies are being given today, are they defined anywhere? That is what is going to be taken up by.
I want to take that point from the fact that, we also have Shailesh Gandhi over there. I want to take it from Shailesh Gandhi. Is there also an ambiguity in the definition of what amounts to a freebie that is currently being taken undue advantage of by various political parties as far as election time is concerned? Because remember, Mr. Gandhi, I think the Supreme Court has also questioned what amounts to welfarism versus what is freebies, because remember, welfarism is not new to our country. We've seen how children stand to benefit from midday meals. That was a welfare scheme. Similarly, many are saying that even cash transfers to women will only mitigate the risk of domestic violence, because eventually they will have spending power in their hands.
We built a fantastic narrative. What is given to the poor is subsidy, freebies, and revenue. What is given to the rich are incentives. We have built a narrative like this in the entire country on all discussions. If 12 lakh crores of loans are written off of the rich, that's an incentive that's required for industrial growth. On the other hand, what is given to the poor is a subsidy, incentive, freebies. It is the state's responsibility to ensure that everybody has a life of dignity and is reasonably fed, gets education and healthcare. The state is not able to do that. And therefore, it is promising these freebies. I concede, if it is able to guarantee a minimum wage and ensure that people are given jobs. And on employment, just one point I'd like to point out on employment. Everybody is talking of employment deficiencies. Nobody admits the fact that all governments, almost all governments across the country, have 20 to 30% vacancies of sanctioned jobs. And this leads to poor governance because not enough people are provided. In the country where employment provision should be priority one, it has been relegated to a, 10th, 15th, 20th stage. This needs to change. The Supreme Court has also, I think, said that people should be provided employment, should get methods of earning money. And as far as shelter is concerned, there is a proposal to ensure that shelter is provided to everybody, and a detailed scheme has been made up for Mumbai city. But these shelters should not be given as ownership, they should be given only as tenancies. If this is done, it's very easy to solve problem of slums and jeopardies. But nobody has the will to do that. Also, a simple suggestion, why doesn't agricultural income attract income tax at least over 20 lakh rupees per year, 30 lakh rupees per year? It's an uncomfortable question for all political parties. It's not done because it is enjoyed by...
I quickly want to bring in Shazia on that note. Shazia, because when
Yes.
the BJP started making promises, you know, it was seen as a discernible shift in the party's own stance, and that currently is also coming under question. At the same time,
No,
you have the likes of Prashant Bhushan, who've also argued that various governments are only working for the rich and that nobody stands for the rights of the have-nots, to which, of course, he also got an earful from the justice over there. But I'd still like your thoughts.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, in terms of multidimensional poverty, there has been a huge difference. 16%, 16 crores have been added to the workforce, and it's actually now more than 25 crores who've been lifted out of poverty. But if I were to compare unemployment, as somebody was mentioning, so if you look at the percentage of total labor force and you were to compare 10 years of UPA and 10 years of NDA, you'll find that 6.38 is a percentage of unemployed in BJP rule as compared to 8.22. So this is, and I'm giving you figures. This is the World Bank figures, and in terms of whether it's boosting health or working with infrastructure or providing water,
All right.
there is a huge difference. And in fact, for the first time, a government is working for
All right,
the poor.
I want to quickly give
So
time.
if you look at the economy report card, you will find
talking about 5 trillion economy and sabka saath.
Kansha?
All right, Arshpreet, quickly.
Thank you. The Bharatiya Janata Party is saying that the question here is, what is a freebie? I mean, it does not take an aeronautical engineer to know that 15 lakhs, 2500, etc. is a freebie. And if it comes to defining it, you've had 10 years to do that, you have not defined it. You've had 10 years to regulate freebies, you have not done that. So let's give up the double standards. I request the Bharatiya Janata Party, and the Supreme Court pulled you up when the Maharashtra government did not have money to compensate people but had money for freebies. The Supreme Court pulled
All
you
right.
up then.
I want quick closing thoughts from Shazia on those allegations that are being hurled. Keep in mind, Shazia, that it was Ashwani Upadhyay from the BJP back in 2022 who had knocked the doors of the Supreme Court, asking them to in fact challenge the constitutional validity of freebies themselves.
Yeah, so as an individual, and I don't know whether he made that PIL, for which the court has answered as a member of BJP. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people who feel this way, but you should be able to differentiate between welfarism, basic socialism that is needed for India's poor, and also to ensure that middle class has something that they can save an extra money in their pockets, so they can propel the economy further by further spending, which is also needed.
You do not even
So
deliver
there
it.
are a number of
Sumit Chandar, quick closing thoughts. Do you think that there's been a lack of judicial oversight, because Supreme Court also in 2022 had said that no political party will ever discuss the freebie debate because it works in their favor. So that's why they had in fact requested that a panel be formed with the likes of people and members from Law Commission, even the Niti Aayog, the RBI, to only look into this entire matter, but nothing has moved forward.
True. Akanksha, I think to summarize it, I would say the only thing that needs to now get clarified, any freebie in the matter of a manifesto which is being stated by any political party, if it is for the public purpose, whether it defines within the public purpose, then the constitution also supports you. And Article 41 says that the states are within its economic capacity to develop and provide these to secure the rights of work and education and public assistance to the people. But if it is not for a public purpose and then it is a simple freebie, that should be stopped and will come within the definition of corrupt practice.
I'm afraid I'm running short of time, so I'll have to leave it at that. We all know that, in fact, the question that we are also going to leave you with, that are in fact politicians even concerned about the practicality of these freebies, or are they more concerned about winning those votes and that power from the electorate?